Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game picks for the month of May 2025. And so, yeah, this is there's more than you think. There's there's a console, a new one, off to the side, one that's been hyped up for a very long time, and I think you can guess what it is. And I'm very excited about it. Before we obviously get to that, we'll show the other pickups as well. But yeah, so before we do anything, if you guys do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all the social media stuff I've got in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, my travel channel, etc. I appreciate the support on those platforms. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. Now, I should mention that the majority of the stuff here, and again, there's a very special item, a new console off screen. Before I'm just excited. I should mention that the majority of the stuff here came from a convention in Texas known as Retropalooza, Retropalooza Houston specifically. It's run by Billy and Jay from the Game Chasers. I'm sure a lot of you guys know them. They had me down there as a guest, and that was a really fun convention, and thank you again to them for having me. So that's where most stuff here came from, but obviously there are certain exceptions to that. However, before we get into the convention stuff, I figure we'll start with this. We actually have a package. This package comes from a fellow YouTuber that some of you might know, Virtual Girl, aka Candace. She does a lot of videos on the Virtual Boy. She's to the Virtual Boy what I am to the Dreamcast, except that, there's frankly more Dreamcast content to cover. I'll put a link tree, link in the description if you want to check out her stuff. She made this specifically for me. And I think it's pretty cool. It's not necessarily a video game, but it is like channel related. So I thought it would be kind of fun to just, go ahead and take a look at it. So let's cut that open there. And she said for the time being anyway, that this is a one of one. But if anybody actually wants one, maybe we can arrange something. So we'll take out we got our paper here, and we got some items. So basically, she does a lot of craft work, and she decided to make little figurines of me. First of all, she made me a Time Machine DeLorean. I'm a bit of a fan of Back to the Future. But then that includes a little figurine of me right there that can, I guess, ride it. No, I don't know. And then another one that's just kind of combines a lot of my interests. And so it's got this little base like an amiibo, which, fun fact, this actually does function as an amiibo. I think that the one she programmed into it was specifically Sonic the Hedgehog. And then it's got a little base that has a Dreamcast on it. It has a United Airlines flight going off it, because I fly all the time, and I fly exclusively on United. And then there's a little figurine of me with a Superman cape, a Blockbuster shirt, and holding a little Godzilla figure. It's kind of like combining most of my interests. The only one that's kind of missing is Shenmue, but I guess the Dreamcast itself kind of covers that. But yeah, for now anyway, these are just cool little figurines. I'm going to see if I can place them back here. I don't know if there's enough space back there. I might have to rearrange stuff, whatever. But either way, huge shout out to Virtual Girl Candace for making these for me. That was really nice of you to do. You obviously didn't have to do that. Also, I do have to comment that there's no way this aircraft would be aerodynamic. The wings are far too small for the fuselage. This thing would definitely go down. But all the same, I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll put these over here as just little display pieces for the moment. And like I said, if anybody's actually... You can check out our links in the description to her if you want to see any of her videos or her other work. But if you want to possibly get one of these, you'd have to make a comment down below and say, like, hey, I would totally buy one of those. I have no idea what they would cost or anything like that. These are actually hand-painted by her, which is pretty cool. But she said she's vaguely open to that possibility. But we'll see. For now, though, they're just really cool display pieces. And thank you very much to Candace, Virtual Girl, for sending that my way. Now, what I said before, I went to a convention, right? So Retropalooza Houston. So here's my guest badge, all that fun stuff. This year was a big theme of NBA Jam. So we obviously had Tim Kitzrow down there from downtown, my buddy, who we were hanging out with and everything. And yeah, we had fun times together. Here we are talking about the Sega Pluto and everything, because NBA Jam actually runs on it and all that fun stuff. So yeah, cool times. Anyway, I picked up some various items there. Not a ton of stuff, but some good stuff. So I didn't actually have a whole. Or I'm going to tell you guys the truth right now. I don't usually have a whole lot of time to shop at conventions because I attend them as a guest. And because I do that, I have certain like requirements of where I need to be and all that sort of thing. But also because of I usually bring the Sega Pluto stuff as just kind of a bonus content. Like if you ever want me at a convention, like I'm happy to come as the YouTuber guest personality. I typically bring the Pluto as just kind of a bonus. So hey, you can while you get me, you also get this like super rare prototype that people could be into. You know, whatever. But because of what it is, I have to typically sit there and babysit it. So I don't get a whole lot of time to go shopping, which is kind of good from a wallet perspective. But all the same, I did manage to pull off a few items. Mostly, you know, I think on the second day, on Sunday, before the show started, I was able to kind of entrust putting it down and then go shop before the public comes in. And I was able to get some stuff. So I was chipping away a little bit at the original Xbox goal. Not much. For those who do not know, I want a complete original Xbox set globally, not just North America. I want all the exclusives from every region. Ironically, those parts I've actually done. I've got all the European stuff. I've got all the Japanese stuff. There's a couple of sporadic Asian exclusives, one from South Korea, one from Taiwan. I have those. There's 4 Australian exclusives. I have those. It's the North American stuff that I'm oddly lacking in. I still have a bunch of it. I'm just, you know, the thing is, none of them are really heavy hitters. It's really just a matter of finding them at a price I'm willing to do, and just actually doing it. And to that end, I got a few here. So MLB Slugfest 2006, which is actually very appropriate because Tim Kitzrow also voiced this. He also did like NFL Blitz and all those games. That was Tim the whole time. But yeah, very cool. MTX Moto Tracks. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. I'm going to say something a lot of you will not like to hear. I do not like Lord of the Rings. It actually kind of hurt me to buy this, but I needed it for the set. In fact, I can feel it burning my flesh right now. I know. A lot of you love that franchise. I simply will say I do not. We'll leave it at that. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Legend of Black Cat. Why does this ring a bell? I feel like I played this at some point, but I might be confusing it with another game. And then another one that burns my flesh. Anime stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dawn of Destiny. Truly the epitome of, well, I just need it for the collection, because I certainly don't really want that. And it hurt my hand. But anyway, so yeah, I just got some games off the Xbox list. That's really that. Whatever. So the other few purchases I got here were kind of for the fun of it. I think I'm going to swap over here real quick and say I got a few items. So sometimes when you go to a convention as a guest, people will actually like give you stuff. First of all, you don't have to do that. It's appreciated, but you don't have to. And we got a few items were just kind of given to me. Ironically, both Sonic themed and from separate people. I was given this flag that says, "Can you feel the sunshine?" Which is, of course, a reference to Sonic R on the Sega Saturn. Which is also very funny because the characters on this is Tails with headphones. You have a Chow, and you have, I believe that's Cream, the rabbit. I mean, Tails was in Sonic R, but these two other characters didn't even exist when that game came out. So this is obviously not like an original piece of merch or anything, but I don't know, it's a little flag. So we ended up putting it like in the Pluto and just having it as a display piece. And I was also given these little Sonic rings. These are kind of cool. I'm probably going to pair these up with like a Sonic figure or something. Actually, there's a little... Nah, it doesn't quite fit around the Dreamcast. That would have been cool. But yeah, I'll probably pair these up with some sort of Sonic figure. I think I have a big Sonic figure with like an arm that does this. I guess I'll just put him in his hands. So that's pretty cool. So thank you very much to the people who hooked me up with those. That was very nice of you to do. Okay, as for some more games. I don't collect a whole lot of PS1. I have nothing against the PS1. It was one of my favorite consoles growing up, but the library in it is so vast that I accepted very early on I was never going to try and get any sort of full set for it, or even massive set for it. So I just kind of went like, all right, I'll just get what appeals to me. And there's always been other priorities. So the point of that story is I very rarely get PS1 games. But there was one I wanted, it was there, and it was actually cheap because it's technically damaged. So I was like, whatever, I'll go for it. Warpath, Jurassic Park. So this is a fighting game for the PS1. There's a C written on there in Sharpie for some reason. I guess the original owner did a lot of that, but as a result, these games were a lot cheaper. So, sorry if you hear sirens outside. I live, so people always ask, like, oh man, why do you have so many sirens? I live centrally located between a hospital, a police station, and a fire department. So one of those sirens is always coming from one of those three things. Anywho, so this Warpath game was exclusive to the PS1, and I do not think it was particularly good, but it's just kind of a hard one to find, and if you like Jurassic Park stuff, it's just kind of a nice little piece to have to the collection. I could deal with the fact that it has the little C up there, there's no fixing that. But that's all right. Unfortunately, that's not on the paper. That's on the that's on the paper. It's not on the plastic, so I don't think that's removable. But outside of that, the game is in good condition and was pretty cheap, so I was happy about that. Then we got something I actually put down money for, and it kind of violated a rule, but I was given a good enough deal on it that I went for it. I typically do not buy imports outside of their own country, typically because, like, if you go to a con and you see a guy who's got, like, a ton of Japanese games, you're like, wow, Japanese games are so much cheaper than the American ones. That dude is making, like, 10 times what he paid for it in Japan. Because Japanese, if he's selling it for, like, $10, he got it for $1 in Japan. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I know that because I go to Japan so often. I'm like, I look at those and I'm just like, that's a ripoff. Like, so I never really participate. However, in this case, I had a buddy there named Greg. He wasn't doing that. He was actually just purging his own Japanese stuff, of which he had very little. He was mostly had American stuff. And he was just like, yeah, I'm getting rid of some of my higher-end items and things I don't necessarily need. And he had a pretty robust Xbox 360 Japanese exclusives collection. Now, I went through it. I had every single one of the games, because he didn't buy the date sims and all that stuff. He bought just the shoot-em-ups and the fighting games, like the stuff that would be playable to a Westerner without knowledge of Japanese. And to that end, he only had one game that I needed. And I went, wow, he actually has it. And his original asking price was the eBay American asking price. And I was like, all right, look, dude, I know what you would have paid for this. I know what it would have gone for in Japan, etc., etc. I'm willing to offer you the Japanese price. And if you're agreeable to that, we'll do it. And eventually he was like, yeah, all right, fine. So I got this for, like, basically half of what he was asking. This is Bullet Soul Infinite Burst. This is a shoot 'em up. I believe originally exclusive to the 360. I don't know if it's been re-released in any other form. There are actually two of these on the 360. There's Bullet Soul, and this is the sequel, Bullet Soul Infinite Burst. What's cool about this is not only is it a cool game, it is one of only just six, Japanese Xbox 360 exclusives that's actually backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X. And I think of those six, only it's Bullet Soul and Bullet Soul Infinite Burst that are, like, what you might call playable. They're, you know, again, they're shoot 'em ups. Most of the ones that are backwards compatible, there's a couple, like, I think it's like, I can't remember the name of the franchise. It's just like a date sim type of thing or whatever. But this game, actually, the point is you can actually pop this in a North American Xbox Series X and it will run, or Xbox One X or Xbox One, whatever. However, I have a modded 360, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, basically, I paid him what I would have paid for this in Japan, and he was totally fine with it. So happy to get that, so it didn't necessarily violate the rule. Now, we have one more game here, and it's a random one. By Sega, technically, for the FM Towns Marty, we've got Puyo Puyo. Now, you guys know for a long time I've wanted an FM Towns. If you don't know, so in Japan, the fifth generation, what we know as the N64, PS1, Sega Saturn, the fifth generation actually started with this console called the Fujitsu, is the company that made it, Fujitsu FM Towns Marty. And it did not last particularly long. It was based on a PC of the same name, basically the FM Towns. And, it was kind of a cool PC, but the consoleized version is famously unreliable and very hard to find and whatever. So every time I've been to Japan and I found a game for it, I just picked it up because you don't ever see them. It's kind of like Apple Pippin stuff. You just don't really ever see it. So there it was, just at the con, just an FM Towns Marty game. One I didn't have, and a franchise that's well known. So I was like, all right, I will get that. Now it's, so there you go. So now we get to our special surprise. I think you guys know what it is. It's a new console. It's been teased a little bit here. It's been something a lot of people have wanted for a long time. And yeah, it's all right. So before we do this, I got this at the con. It was just there, much to my shock. It was expensive. It's just like, you know, a little over. We didn't have to deal with tax, so the $450. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. $450, platform that everybody's super excited about, etc. Surprise, surprise, surprise. You already know. You're gonna maybe. All right, here we go. It, of course, is not the Nintendo Switch 2. No, that would be ridiculous. I got the FM Towns Marty, the one I actually was excited about. See, you guys like how I did that? So, all right. Let's take a second here. It comes with a controller, by the way. So, yeah, I apologize for that, because I'm sure a lot of people thought I was talking about the Switch 2. Yeah, Switch 2 is coming. I don't really care about that. I was genuinely excited about the FM Towns Marty. And yes, the game came with it. So, basically what happened here, if I'm honest with you, the FM Towns Marty, I already told you the history there. The problem is this console is famously unreliable and very hard to get. So I saw this exact unit at Retropalooza Dallas last year from the same seller. And he was asking $625. And I was like, I can't do that. That's like the eBay premium price, like, for what the system is. Because if you actually found one of these in Japan, it would be like around $400 to $450. And I was like, I can't bring myself to pay the American premium markup on it. So I offered him, I brought around $400 back at Retropalooza Dallas, and he turned it down. And that was fair enough. So it's about 6 months later now, and we go to Retropalooza Houston. Same guy, same exact unit, and it's, you know, just sitting there. I was across his booth all day. That's where my table was. So I watched him. His booth was always busy, but no one ever went up to look at this thing, ever. And I was willing to bet I knew why, because the majority of you are like, what is this thing? Nobody ever knows what this console is, and that's completely fair. It's at the point where, like, this was my number one I wanted it console, solely because I could not get it, because they were that uncommon, but that obscure. So I towards the end of the con, like, we're talking, the con is going to wrap in like 30 minutes on Sunday. And I go up to him and I'm like, let's talk. And he's like, all right, because he knows who I am. We've hung out. I bought stuff from him at the previous Retropalooza. And I was like, okay, what are we doing here? I point at him, like, be honest with me, dude. Has anyone ever come up asking about that? With any serious offer? He's like, at first he wanted to sound like, you know, somewhat salesman-y, and then he dropped it, and he was just like, okay, I've had people come up and ask what it is, but no, I've never had anybody be like, oh, I'm interested, and I've never had anybody like excited to see it, except you. And I was like, exactly. So, do you want to get rid of it? You know? And he was kind of like, I mean, I want to sell it. I was like, yeah, I'm offering you money, but not what you're asking. And I offered him we kind of haggled a little bit. We ended up at $450. Yes, I'm telling you this openly. I paid $450 for this. And it came with the controller, and it came with the game. Very expensive. I don't deny that. But the reason I did it is that is what I would have paid for a used one. Well, they're all going to be used, but that's what I would have paid for basically a non-functional unit in Japan. This is the Model 2, and unlike those, this one works already. I cannot stress this enough. These are built like crap. And I know a couple of guys who have these, none of them work. Unless they did extensive repair to try and get them to function. This one didn't need it. And that element of it, I mean, that repair process on these things is almost impossible. I will tell you guys, I've been trying to get one of these for years. I've seen them a few times, always I've seen them for a few $1,000s, because there are only a few people who know what they are, and that same few people actually want them, but it's very, very hard to get due to the sheer small number of how many exist, and the fact that even fewer actually function. So like Videogames New York, a buddy of mine named Dan, he was like, yeah, we have like 4 of them in stock. He's like, I'm going to get one all together and we'll work out a deal. And he ended up realizing all 4 of his didn't work and the parts weren't replaceable. Because unfortunately, Fujitsu put a lot of proprietary stuff in this, apparently, that makes it almost impossible to fix it. And it's very common for the lasers to go, the drive to go, like all sorts of different issues. And so he's like, yeah, he didn't want to sell me a broken one. And so every time I've ever been to Japan, I've never seen one for sale. I've seen people who found them, and it's always does not work, does not work, does not work. And it was like, okay, that's not shocking at all. So in talking to him, yeah, it worked. And hilariously, he had actually, the guy who sold it to me had bought it previously from the guy, Greg, who had owned this. So I was able to talk to Greg about it and be like, all right, what's the deal with it? He's like, yeah, it works perfectly. Its read times are slow, which is what you expect. The controller, it comes with the controller. This is the Model 2 controller. I actually have a spare controller as well from the Model 1, which is the white unit. And the fact that he threw in a game is, I can't stress enough how valuable that actually is. So, yes, this was financially speaking a dumb purchase, but it completes my #1 console objective. And yes, I'm aware the Nintendo Switch 2 is about to drop for the exact same money. I don't care. I am infinitely more excited for this thing because I can make a bunch of videos on it. I can talk about the history of it. This is what makes me excited, is preserving history and talking about obscurities. Switch 2, I don't care. Like, I'll get one, whatever, we'll make a video, and whatever. But, like, its whole policies. Here's the funny thing. Aside from the build quality on this thing, which is obviously poor, there's no DRM on this system. This disc works without it, like, without any sort of download, functionality. The Switch 2, aside from the handful of releases that will be completely contained on the carts, with Nintendo's famous or infamous online policies about shutting their servers off completely only after a few years, Switch 2 will be a brick outside of the pirated ones in just a few years. This will very likely outlive that in that sense. You'll be able to play this thing, if your unit works, of course, in 20 years, where the Switch 2, probably not, which is messed up if you think about it. Oh, and by the way, kind of tying this all together, there is an ODE for this thing. ODE is optical disc emulator. It's where you take the drive out and you replace it with a board that has like an SD card or whatever, and you can play all the games on that. There is one for the FM Towns Marty, and very appropriately, it's called the Doc Brown. However, I probably won't be able to get one of those. If I got a second one of these, just with a damaged, disk drive, then I maybe would do that. But yeah, so I can't stress this enough. I'm super happy about this. I would still like to have the Model 1, but now it's much less of a like, wow, I really need it, because I actually do have it, and I have a working one. So I'm very happy about that. But that's also why the rest of my purchasing was rather limited, because I really threw everything into that. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all the social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. Appreciate the support on all those platforms. Thank you so much. I'll see you all later.